Battlefield 2042 wants you to surrender to the spectacle. With the first-person shooter market more fractured than ever before, developer DICE has gone all in on an expressive, expansive multiplayer design. For PC, PS5 and Xbox Series X owners, the player count has doubled from 64 to 128, and the maps are built to a truly unprecedented scale to accommodate. You are confronted by the impact of these innovations continuously, every time you are airlifted into one of its 7 combat zones. As you disembark from the transport, you're given a second to catch your breath before the conquest begins in earnest. Seeing 63 other players rush forward in a wave, as armoured vehicles crest through ranks of infantry, and as fighter jets roar overhead, it's truly awesome. As is knowing that somewhere, hundreds of clicks away, another 64 players are having a similar awakening. Within minutes, the two sides will meet, and the unpredictable carnage that follows is what makes Battlefield 2042 so irresistible. Battlefield 2042 contains 3 distinct multiplayer experiences. All-out warfare, which is large-scale conflicts built around expanded breakthrough and conquest modes. Hazard Zone, a fairly lackluster survival mode that can foster more intimate engagements. And Portal, a superb creation tool that will likely keep the community engaged in this live service ecosystem for years to come. Breakthrough is where Battlefield 2042 shines brightest. One side is assigned as the attacking force and the other as defender, with the front line of combat shifting back and forth between specific sectors in a massive, messy war of attrition. There's something undeniably spectacular about these head-to-head battles. It's in Breakthrough where Battlefield 2042 finds a rare moment of focus, something which can't be so easily said of Conquest. With 128 players fighting over the same objective, the scale and intensity of combat can be stunning, with scores of attacking squads aggressively pushing for inches of ground against entrenched defensive walls. There's this desperate tension to map progression, and an unwavering joy to be earned in helping your team gather momentum. A factor that helps Breakthrough supplant Conquest as Battlefield 2042's flagship mode. DICE stripped single player out of Battlefield 2042, but Breakthrough organically generates scenarios that are typically reserved for scripted campaigns. Your squad will instinctively assemble behind armoured vehicles to take cover against entrenched sniper fire. You'll find yourself sprinting through thick crossfire to supply medical assistance to downed friendlies, and work within the wider coalition to expose weak points, push flanks, and blow defensive lines wide open. There's a cinematic quality to these multiplayer conflicts that's invigorating. There's a reason Conquest has appeared in every series entry in its 20-year history. It's the ultimate expression of the Battlefield sandbox. That remains true in 2042, although the larger maps and player count have made it more chaotic and unpredictable. With play extending cross-platform and with no in-game voice chat support at launch, Conquest can easily overwhelm solo players and frustrate less experienced squads. Battlefield 2042 has made slight adjustments to Conquest to try and focus that action. Teams also now capture multiple control points within a sector before they're able to seize it. However, sectors can change hands so quickly that it can be difficult to assess your impact on the wider conflict. Battlefield can often feel haphazard, particularly when it's difficult to identify where you're being shot from or where to focus your attention, and that is especially true here. Conquest is a great time with the right people around you, but it can be all too easy to become frustrated, particularly with so many players roaming in and out of sectors from all directions. Historically, as fun as Battlefield's action can be when everything clicks into place, there are flaws in its formula, many of which return in Battlefield 2042. It's still far too easy to be killed by unseen players from truly obscene distances, given the wider play spaces, long lines of sight, relative lack of cover, and rapid time to kill. Once the first shot registers, you're as good as dead. As great as the weapons handle, there are just 22 of them available at launch. And while there is certainly a learning curve to the unique dynamics and bullet drop of each weapon, it feels less severe than in previous installments of the series. I suspect that this has had some impact on the balance of engagements, particularly for series veterans who are already comfortable mitigating assault, marksman, and sniper rifle recoil patterns. Thankfully, Battlefield 2042 does give you ways to adapt to natural changes in the cadence of combat. There's this new plus system, which lets you modify your primary and secondary weapons on the fly by altering unlocked attachments in the heat of battle. The ability to change scopes as you shift between environment types, or ammunition and barrels as the threat changes from infantry to vehicle, it's a lot of fun. Resourceful players will appreciate the versatility this system presents, making your chosen loadout more viable in a wider variety of scenarios. Of all the changes that have been made to the core Battlefield formula, the introduction of specialists is where 2042 stumbles hardest. Battlefield has traditionally used classes as a cudgel to balance its action and team play, with weapons and gadgets restricted to specific roles, which forces synergy in squads. Now, assault rifles are no longer tied to the assault class, nor snipers to recon. All players can also freely equip ammunition boxes, repair tools, and medkits, and the same goes for rocket launchers and C4 too. It makes for a messier, more unfocused Battlefield. It can actually feel as if Battlefield 2042 has sacrificed the series' focus on specialization. It's difficult to identify what role players are fulfilling, or whether the troops assembling around objective points are properly equipped to deal with emerging threats. It's also worth mentioning that each of the 10 specialists have their own unique gadgets and traits, but few have any real utility. McKay and Rosie are the standouts, as their grappling hook and wingsuit equipments have a tangible impact on traversal. At a time where Battlefield needed to meet its increased scale with improvements to visibility, it is disappointing that DICE has pushed away from clear and communicable squad compositions. With 128 players running Riot, there's never been a greater need for a regular flow of ammunition boxes and medkits, but that support seems harder to come by now that players are able to create loadouts built around weapon classes rather than role requirements. It's all-out war where most players will settle in Battlefield 2042, with groups of friends gravitating towards the carnage of Conquest and everyone else into the breathtaking rhythms of Breakthrough. DICE has introduced two new ways to play here too, although one is markedly stronger than the other. Hazard Zone is a 32-player squad-based survival mode which pits 8 teams of 4 against one another, and roving gangs of AI soldiers to capture and extract data drives. Hazard Zone feels like the direct antithesis of what the broader Battlefield 2042 package is trying to deliver. The pacing is needlessly slow, with action taking place on maps repurposed from all-out warfare, which is to say they are far too small to support these smaller scale entanglements. Progression is cumbersome too, with dark market credits, which are earned for successfully extracting data drives and killing enemies, used for little more than rebuilding your loadout from scratch between matches. With the sandbox stripped down to its barest of essentials, Hazard Zone is little more than a side attraction in Battlefield 2042. While there's every chance that DICE will improve the pacing, objectives, and permeance between rounds, right now it's difficult to recommend stepping foot in this game mode without a tight squad around you. And then there is Battlefield Portal, one of the best parts of the entire 2042 package. It's a robust suite of editing and sharing tools that will let you create your own Battlefield experiences and then share them out with the wider community. By letting you draw on the maps, weapons, and classes of Battlefield 1942, Battlefield 3, and Bad Company 2, all of it underpinned by the technology of 2042. It feels like a killer way to celebrate the series' 20th anniversary and the players that have been there since the beginning. The web-based editor is robust, allowing for a surprising amount of nuance. You can mix elements from all of the games together, or effectively create new-gen remasters of your favourite maps and modes from Battlefield's past. Portal has let me see what Rush on Bad Company 2's Arica Harbour or Valprissimo maps would be like with 128 players, and what its Carnival of Destruction would look like in 4K, and it's incredible by the way. That the technology of Battlefield 2042 can be leveraged to breathe new life into the series' past like this is fantastic, and while the quality of creations can differ wildly, there's real joy to be had in returning to some favourite maps and modes from the past, particularly as they are given an audio, visual and performance boost. Performance is a mode that the community at large is going to spend months, if not years, pushing to the limit. Battlefield 2042 launches on solid ground. DICE has plans to expand this FPS over time, effectively treating it as a live service. We're obviously yet to get a sense of what that will look like, how the studio will handle a regular cadence of content releases, or progression of its battle pass, but that will all come in time. For now, Battlefield 2042 is a good time that only gets better with friends. In its current form, those of you coming in without a squad, or directly from the battle royales of this world, may struggle to get a footing in the carnage. But if you can settle into the rhythms of Battlefield 2042's all-out war, you won't play anything else quite like it on new systems.